So speaking of Cassidy Hutchinson, I want to bring in MS Now senior investigative reporter Carol Leonnig. Carol, your reporting in your book with Aaron Davis, Injustice, is being brought up at this hearing. So break down exactly what you did report about Cassidy Hutchinson and how it relates or doesn't relate to today's hearing.
Well, I couldn't agree more that the evidence that Jack Smith gathered that Donald Trump interfered in a federal election was overwhelming, as was the evidence he and his team gathered in terms of obstruction of justice in hoarding classified records, national defense information in his home with very, very sensitive documents. Very, very few people were authorized to look at being in Donald Trump's ballroom and bathroom, as Jack Smith described. I also couldn't agree more that Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony ultimately would have been irrelevant to that presentation and to a potential trial. What we reported in our book, my colleague and I, Aaron Davis, was looking deep inside the Jack Smith investigation. And about her, what Jack Smith was interested in knowing was, could we corroborate what she claimed about Donald Trump's effort to go to the Capitol the day that the riot broke out and after his ellipse speech? Could they corroborate that he had lunged towards his Secret Service agent and to the driver to try to insist that they take him to the Capitol? And what his prosecutors on his team told him was, look, what she heard about that incident that's reported in the vehicle was second and third hand, and it's hard and almost impossible to corroborate it and not really worth the candle, if you will. Jack Smith said today in his testimony that he had not made an absolutely final determination about who would testify at trial. But our reporting in Injustice was that almost everyone had concluded she wasn't necessary, and they had corroborated one of the things Cassidy Hutchinson had to say, which was Donald Trump was absolutely livid at his Secret Service agents not taking him to the Capitol. He wanted to be brought up there, and as he had said to his followers in the ellipse speech, go up there. I'm going to walk up there with you, fight like hell for your country. And that is exactly what they did. They fought like hell.
Carol, one of the things I wanted to ask you about is some of the reporting, too, that relates to today's hearing, and it involved the classified documents case and the fact that that was brought to Florida instead of D.C. And I know you were talking to sources who felt like maybe that was the wrong call, given what we've seen with the action of Trump-appointed Judge Aileen Cannon. Can you explain more of sort of that thinking and whether it could have potentially made any difference when it came to trying that case before the election?
Yes, important question. And in our book, we reveal in Injustice for the first time that there was actually a dispute inside Jack Smith's office among prosecutors about Jack Smith's decision to take this case and bring the criminal charges related to the hoarding of classified records in Florida. There was a prosecutor named David Raskin who had a lot more experience bringing classified records and national security cases to trial. And I won't use all of the expletives that we report in the book, but his reaction when he learned that Smith had decided to go to Florida was, you have got to be blank insane. His view was that in Florida, the risk of getting Aileen Cannon was high enough to be an existential threat, as he said, to the case. If you got Cannon, the case was dead. And in fact, that is exactly what an aide and senior advisor to Attorney General Merrick Garland warned when Jack Smith presented his draft prosecution on the classified records case to the Attorney General. The aide said, if you get Cannon, you're dead. The case is over. Jack Smith's team, we revealed, had made an early calculation that their chances of drawing Cannon were somewhere around 1 in 6. But ultimately, later they learned the chances of drawing her were actually 1 in 3 because of the caseloads of other judges in that district. And the existential threat came, and it caused the collapse of the case, just as David Raskin had foreshadowed.
Carol Leonnig, it's always great to have your fantastic reporting. Thank you for that.